From Ohio's haylofts and tool sheds, driveways and blacktops where future legends practice buzzer beaters under dimly lit mercury lights, it's the show that covers all things high school basketball. Here is Northwest Ohio Hoop Chat. And now your host, OHSAA Hall of Fame coach Doug Kruse, and today's guest host with an even loftier distinction, my 6th grade Mini Panthers coach, Mr. Tim Meister.
Wow. Stryker Mini Panther coach for Ryan Throne. How about Ryan Throne back in the Mini Panther days? What would be your scouting report?
Heady player, high basketball IQ, gritty. Believed he was the MVP of the 5th grade Mini Panthers that year.
Did he have long hair and a beard?
The beard, yes. Long hair, no. His mom made him cut his hair.
All right, well, that's great.
And he went the wrong way on a layup once in a halftime game for Mini Panthers.
But you were wide open.
I was.
Did you
Scored
make it?
Oh, yeah.
2 points for the other team. I like that.
Yeah, as we get to the end of the season here, guys, I'd love to hear you both talk a little bit in a couple of minutes here in our intro about some of your experiences maybe and what youth sports was like for you guys when you were coaching those.
Well, in Archbold here, we had our what we call the Super Streak program, and they still have the Super Streak program. And actually, it was Steve Redding and myself back in 1977 that started that program every Saturday morning, and we did that weekly throughout the season, and we got our players involved with it. And we even, when I became the head coach, I even got some local guys in town that liked basketball, and they started coaching our kids. And our players then just did the refereeing and scoring and so forth, but they were still involved. And as the years went on, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to coach some of these kids. So Zeb Frank was about a 4th grader, and I told Joe and Mike, I said, I've been doing this for since 1977. I got the AD job out here. I'm busy getting stuff around. I said, you know what, you guys do the program. Of course, Joe said, yeah, I'll do it because my kid's involved, obviously. And so they did it. Of course, I ended up coaching all those guys and kept things running. So it worked out. Those guys were super as well. So fun program. Kids got a lot of usage out of it. And it's just a nice thing to have for our players to be involved with.
I would echo his sentiments, and I'm going to go back to my time at Bryan. I think our youth program evolved. We got less away from competition and more into fundamentals and making sure each kid had fun, especially with boys, because a lot of those boys would grow and develop at different ages. Like Coach got my players involved. I wanted them to be seen. I went to everything as a head coach. I was very intentional about that. I wanted to be seen because I think the older you get to realize those little guys, they look up to you. And if you take 15 minutes on a Saturday morning and talk to them, to let them see them play, to make sure your players are involved, that meant the world. And that might keep a kid involved that maybe wouldn't have been involved or was thinking about not being involved. And that young man may have become a better basketball player or a key cog in your program. And that actually happened to me. I had a kid who got cut in 7th grade, and he had such a great time in our youth program, was encouraged, stayed in as an 8th grader, played a little bit. He ended up starting on our 20-2 team as a junior.
Nice.
And that was something I always took away is it's not about competition, winning at that youth level. It's about having fun and keeping their interest and making sure you use that as a vehicle to teach your players the importance of being a role model and little eyes are upon you all the time.
Yeah, Matt Fox and Jamie Gensler.
Yep.
And when I was a 6th grader, those guys being part of that on a Saturday morning made me want to go to games on a Friday night or a Saturday night and watch them play and learn more about the game. So that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we tried to use it with the shoes on both foot. We tell our guys, hey, when things get hot or official doesn't make a call that goes your way, think about how you act, because how you act, those little guys think it's okay. So make sure you handle yourselves in the right manner.
Want to welcome head coach Matt Ripke from Edon for our Coach's Corner. Matt, how are we doing this afternoon?
I'm well, Coach. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's our pleasure. Thank you. Hey, Matt, let's get started. Tell us about your background. Who or what got you interested in the teaching and the coaching field?
Oh boy. Well, it goes back to probably after I graduated high school. Got into coaching with football first. Actually, Coach Craig McCord at Ayersville had me help out with the junior high one year, and the next year moved me up to his high school staff. And a few years into that, he said, if you're going to do this coaching thing, you need to go back and get your teaching degree and become a teacher. So he encouraged me and supported me in doing
Wow.
that. And during that time period, I'd met my wife, and she again was a great support person for me in that respect. And so went back to college and got my degree teaching. And um, Doug Flory at the time was the head boys coach at Ayersville, and he gave me the opportunity to start coaching some junior high basketball. So I did that for about 4 years. And then when Coach Retcher came in as the varsity coach, he hired me as a JV coach, and kind of took off from there.
Well, that's awesome. And you mentioned a couple of guys there. Craig McCord, that's a pretty good advice he gave you. And then also Marv Retcher. I got a big heart for Marv Retcher. What did you learn coaching with Marv Retcher?
Well, I don't. My reputation is I'm a pretty intense coach.
I've noticed that
both in practice and then in the games. And I think the biggest thing, and it took me a while, as my hair's gotten a little grayer, to take some of those things that I learned from Coach Retcher and settle down a little bit and probably do a little more teaching, a little less yelling. And I've tried to take that to heart, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. And I can still get cranked up from time to time, but one of the things that Coach Retcher used to say was, it's a lot more effective if it's used less often. So it took me a while to learn that lesson the hard way, but that's probably the biggest thing I took away from him. Besides, obviously, the skill development and X's and O's of the game. He's an absolute master when it comes to that.
Yeah, he was daggone good, and what a great man. How about this? So you got your start, and you talked about your football and so forth, your experience there. What got you to Edon then? What led you to get your present position at Edon?
So I took a AD job at Edgerton, and then taught there and was a head coach there for 12 years. And just, I don't know, about 4 years ago, decided to make a change, and AD position and head basketball opened up here at Edon, and made the move over here. And it's been a great move, not only for my career, my coaching and teaching, but also for my family. All my wife is here working as well, and 2 daughters that are still in school, my son who graduated from here. So it's been a great change for us.
Well, you've done a great job. Even back at Edgerton, you're there a dozen years. 10 of those years you won sectional titles. A couple of those years you got out to regionals. And I know one year you had a young man get hurt, and that might have hindered your spot to get it even a little further. But you've done a great job in those stages there, Matt.
I appreciate that. Have had some tremendous players everywhere that they've had the opportunity to coach. Again, you know as well as anybody that those guys on the floor have to go out and do what you're asking them to do and teaching them to do. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I've had some great assistant coaches that have been tremendous in teaching the game and being on the same page with me and what our vision is for our basketball program.
Matt, Coach Meister here. I want to talk a little bit about what I found is an interesting characteristic of your teams. Even when you had good teams that were good early on, or your teams that maybe got better, your teams have continually gotten better as years went on. It's been, to me, the one key characteristic of everything that you've coached. This team especially seems to have made a huge jump in the last 3 weeks. I think the case in point, when you beat Evergreen, I'd watched them play. In fact, I did the game on Bryan TV and was thoroughly impressed with Evergreen. Loved the Reese kid, thought they were a really difficult team to defend, and thought they're going to give a lot of teams problems. And you guys did a tremendous job and had a great win. So could you talk a little bit about how this team has improved, and maybe even focus a little bit like on the last 3 weeks and what you've seen and the reasons you think you've gotten better?
Well, I think ever since I've started coaching, and again, this goes back to Coach Retcher and Coach McCord, it's all based upon fundamentals. And regardless of the talent that we have or don't have, we spend a tremendous amount of time, especially in the preseason, on fundamentals of defense and screening correctly offensively and rebounding. And I think that as we begin to build those habits throughout the course of the year, we're able to add some more things. And And defensively, we've added a few other wrinkles to our defense. I've myself as a head coach, I've always believed in playing man-to-man defense, but we've added some different wrinkles on baseline out of bounds and some zones and some
Nice.
zone traps that have, again, it's just adding a little bit more to our repertoire to fit the personnel that we have. I can want to play man-to-man all I want, but if it doesn't put our players in the best position to be successful, I'm beating my head against the wall. So, I had to be a little bit more flexible with what the strengths of our team is year in and year out. And I think we take, as a coaching staff, we take the time in the preseason to kind of figure out what works best for us. But it's all based, again, on those fundamental principles that we begin the season with each year.
Well, that's great. And, your Bombers are 12-8 overall, 5-1 in the BBC, and you're going for a league championship, and that is awesome. What do you got to do to get that league championship coming up on Friday night?
Well, the one thing I've been really pleased with our team lately. Against Fayette last Friday and last night against Hamilton. We were physically better than both of those teams that we played, and that's not a knock against either one of those squads. But our kids came out and played fast and got off to a great start. Sometimes you worry about complacency in those types of games, and our guys came out with a focus and jumped on both of them early, and were able to get all of our kids, younger kids, some vital varsity experience. So I was really pleased with how the focus has been, especially here the last couple of weeks. Since I've came here to Edon, of trying to get guys to believe that they can do more than they think that they can do, and we've been close so many times, but, Coach Meister brought up that Evergreen win. I think the Pettisville win for us and the Evergreen win for us validated the fact that, maybe they're starting to believe that they can do some things that they may not have been able to do in the past, because we continue to tell them day in and day out in practice, the physical capabilities are there. It's just making the choice to do things correctly all the time and having the focus. And we've certainly done a really, really good job of that here of late.
Well, that's great. That's good stuff. Matt, you're what I would call a veteran coach, and there's some interesting things about this game. How about this? What's a rule change you would like to see in the game of basketball? If I gave you the permission to make a rule change, what would it be?
Oh boy. Maybe not a rule change, but maybe go back to, again, the way I was taught back in the day, that from a defensive standpoint, that if the defender slaps down on the basketball, that's a foul. To me, that's the way I was taught 35 years ago. It's the way I've taught our guys now, and it seems like there's so much more hands involved in slapping at the ball defensively that it mucks the game up a little bit. So that would probably be the biggest thing for me is if it's a slap down, man, there's not a whole lot of room on that ball to slap down if the offensive player has two hands on it. So let's make that a foul from here on out.
Matt, I want to follow up on that, because I found in my later years of coaching, I believe that officials started to let things get more physical, which is fine. Maybe that's how the game has evolved. But I found myself almost teaching my players to adapt to that and become more physical as well. So going, especially with that rule about slapping down, do you find yourself teaching your kids that? Because if you don't, you almost put them at a disadvantage.
Oh, you're exactly right. And again, kind of like going back to what I talked about, man versus zone defensively, I'm crazy not to let them do it. I think the other thing too with that is blocking shots. When I first started, probably my first 10, 12 years, it was you stand straight up and down and wall up and make the guy shoot over top of you. And now it just seems like I'm more, I don't know if I want to say understanding or lenient or allowing guys to jump and block shots, because I think if you don't do that, it takes some of their athleticism away and puts our team at a disadvantage. Same way with the trying to go for steals defensively on the ball. So again, it's, as Coach Meister said, you got to adapt to how the game's being called, and it's certainly changed and become more physical in the last few years.
Well, there's no doubt you have to make the changes as the game goes on. How about this, Matt? You finish up your regular season. Tournament starts next week. You got the Hilltop Cadets Friday at home next week. Do you like having the highest seed hosting as opposed to going to a neutral site for tournament?
Well, you're the one who called me a veteran coach, so I'm going to stick with the old time.
That's what I'm
old-timers.
talking about.
I believe in there's nothing better than a tournament atmosphere in a neutral site. I think, I think back to some of the, the old school at Bryan and, going to the district at Napoleon. And those things to me create tremendous environments for high school basketball that,
You betcha.
some of that is taken away with this better seed host. So I'm all for going back to neutral sites.
Well, I concur wholeheartedly. I would love to see that myself. I don't think that's going to happen. But you know what, Matt, you'll host next week, and you'll do your best you can next week with it, and play the rules as they go. And we want to thank you for taking the time here this afternoon to join us in our Coach's Corner, and we certainly wish you and the Bombers continued success, Matt.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Time to thank our sponsors for Northwest Ohio Hoop Chat. D&G Welding of Archbold. Call 445-5751 and ask about our mobile service. Rely on D&G Welding for all of your welding needs. Innovatech Solutions of Archbold, your trusted technology partner. Call 419-445-8088 to learn more about Innovatech Solutions and their technology services. You can also visit them online at innovatech.solutions.net. S&W Mills of Archbold, they're proud supporters of Archbold Blue Streaks and all area students and athletes. Call S&W Mills of Archbold for all the animal bedding needs that you might have at 419-445-5206. That's S&W Mills. And BSN Sports. At BSN, our job is making sports easier for coaches and players. From top-notch fan gear to personalized uniforms, we've got everything your team needs to succeed. You can contact Jim Garris, Rob Welch, or Rob Held today and take your game to the next level. BSN Sports, the heart of the game. Let's head back to the Coach's Corner for our second featured coach.
We want to welcome Justin Sonnenberg from Patrick Henry Ladies to our Coach's Corner. Justin, appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk and talk about our girls.
Well, that's something that they deserve. That's what a season they've been putting together. You've put together 21-1, 7-0, first league championship since 2006. That is really, really great for this young group of your Lady Patriots.
Yeah, I'm really proud of them. That was the goal. We were close and kind of competed towards the top of the league the past couple of years, and they worked really hard to take the next step. So, really, really proud of the consistency we've had throughout the season, and excited about, where we landed, tournament draw, and all of that.
Okay, we'll talk about that, but let's go back in time a little bit. Your background, you're a PH grad and you're a Findlay grad. Is that correct?
Yep.
Well, we have both of those in common. I don't know if you knew, I went to Findlay also.
Okay, all right.
I was there a couple years.
Oilers.
I was there a couple years before you got there. But anyway, I remember back in the day, I had some teachers and coaches that were big influences on me to going into the education profession and coaching. How about you, Justin? Have you had some good reason or people around you that have helped you maybe make a decision, be an educator and a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very fortunate to have three great high school coaches with Coach Kruse, both of the Inselmans, Greg and Bill Inselman. They were all amazing coaches, and that, really kind of, fueled my passion for sports and all of that. And then great teachers at Patrick Henry. Mrs. Bloor always comes to top of mind.
Oh, yeah.
She was challenging and everything, and was very well prepared, going into college with math and everything. So, to get challenged like that, and she was, pretty strict but fun. So yeah, she definitely had a big impact on me as well.
Well, that's awesome. In fact, a couple of those coaches, those Instrument guys are really good. I'm not so sure about that other guy you mentioned, but those two guys are pretty good. Anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you have a vast coaching experience in different sports. Why don't you kind of give us a lowdown on all your coaching experiences that actually led you to get into Patrick Henry?
Yeah, I guess I was personally best at football. Growing up and, throughout high school and everything. I loved all three sports. I played all three sports. I was passionate about all of them, but, I had an opportunity to play football at Findlay. So I played 4 years for the Oilers. And then, getting into education, I started at Defiance. And, having the background I had with, 3 amazing high school coaches that all had, state championships and all of that. I got into coaching. I coached 3 sports for most of my career. I did I started with 8th grade girls basketball, JV baseball, and then freshman football at Defiance. So going from PH and then my first teaching job at Defiance, very fortunate because they had, I feel next to PH had, some of the best coaching in the area with Coach Beauty, Coach Held, and then, Coach Lehman. I didn't work directly with Coach Lehman, but tried to learn as much as I could from him. And, I worked under Kirk Jones, an Ayersville guy when I was in the girls program over there. I coached 3 sports for a long time. Didn't really know what route. I knew I wanted to be a head coach, but wasn't sure what route I'd end up going, either football, basketball, or baseball. And the first head coaching opportunity that presented itself was football. So I took on the Stryker head coaching job there and got the program going. And, Coach Holsoppel's doing a great job keeping that going. And, they're doing 8-man now and everything. And when an opportunity came up at Patrick Henry to potentially be a head coach, and there was a science teaching opportunity as well, that doesn't come along all that often where there's a head coaching vacancy and a spot I could teach. So I jumped on that and was fortunate enough to get that job, and been doing it for 6 years now at Patrick Henry.
Justin, I want to go back to your experience at Stryker because very few people may realize this. You were their first ever football coach in modern history. So we talk about coaches taking over and having to build a program. That takes on a different meaning of what you had to do at Stryker. Can you touch on that a little bit and maybe talk about a lesson or two that you learned from doing that and how you carry that over to your current position?
Yeah, that was a great experience. You have to be a great teacher. You have to teach the fundamentals. You have to, you start to get understanding of just the mass quantity of reps and how much persistency that you need before you see things translate, onto the field. So, those Stryker boys were at a disadvantage. They never had junior high football or anything, but they showed so much toughness, jumping in with the JV schedule. And then, my last year there, we played a full 10-game schedule, playing 11-man football, varsity football, and they battled and stuck it out. So some of the biggest takeaways was just, persevering and continuing to work hard, even though, you're not focused on wins or losses. It's just control what you can control, work hard, focus on the details and fundamentals and getting 1% better every day. And those guys absolutely did it. They showed a lot of heart and toughness. There were some really tough kids, and, I definitely took a lot away, and it definitely made me a better coach. You have to focus on teaching, not just, just trying to motivate or have a great rah-rah speech or anything like that. You had to really, really teach and get the point across and get them believing.
Well, that's good stuff, Justin, and I can appreciate everything you just said about the coaching area there. Let's look at your team this year. Your Lady Patriots, like I said, have had a great season. What's made your team so successful? You're a young squad. What's made them so successful?
Yeah, I think we're a very unselfish team. I think we're a little quicker and more athletic this year. We have 3 starters returning. One is our senior, Casey Nelson, who was a 4-year letter winner for us. So, she's a great leader. She really gets us into our offense. She plays with a toughness, and that's kind of how we want to play. She's an up-tempo style, kind of attack mode point guard, and that's how we want to play. She does that on offense and defense. And then Karis Crossland, Ada Chrisman, 2 standout juniors, having great seasons, setting some records and doing a lot of great things. And Sophie Gildy lettered for us last year, came in off the bench, made huge plays for us night in, night out last year, and she was ready to take on a starting role this year. And then we had to really kind of figure out, depth and the other spots. And I think that's kind of been our strength a little bit this year. Kelsey Schwiebert, really filled in. She is a versatile player. Been playing kind of undersized as a 5 because we like to play Ada out a little bit more and try to create mismatches away from the basket as well as, down inside with her. Kelsey's been playing tough inside. We've developed some depth. That was the question mark kind of coming in because we had some first-year varsity players who would be competing for varsity time, and they all competed. They all truly care about each other. I think this is the most close-knit team I've ever coached. Our assists are way up this year because I think we're making the extra pass and not settling for the first shot that we come across. We don't hold the ball very long for offense. We never have long possessions, but we have a little bit better pass.
Well, that's great.
A little bit more this year. So
that's good stuff too. I mean, and I've seen your team play. They are fun to watch, and what you said is so true there. How about this? I'm always interested in nowadays the coaches we have around. The huddle is so important and popular and so forth. Do you just do your scouting off the huddle, or do you go out and live scout?
Definitely do less live scout. I just went to the Hicksville game, Hicksville-Ayersville last night. I still think it's good to see it live, especially if it's a team we haven't seen yet or haven't not real familiar with, just to get a good sense of their speed and athleticism. That's kind of hard to see on film. Everything else you can get the plays, you can get what they do, but we do still try to get out and scout in person from time to time, but not near as much anymore.
Well, I can understand that. Being the old timer I am, the huddle wasn't too much of a use, so we always were out. But hey, this is this is the best time of year, and what you've had over at PH this year with both your program and the guys program, I've always felt when teams are doing well, the school atmosphere and in the school hallways and everything has got to be really, really good. I got to believe PH hallways and the atmosphere and the camaraderie around the entire school has been really up this winter. Would that be accurate?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. The kids are all they're upbeat, they're positive, they're excited for each other. I think we've had great student sections. The kids are really supporting each other, so it's been fun to be a part of that. And you just look at our Delta game. It was a great turnout, great student section.
Well, great crowd.
Just really, really thankful. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome, and I wouldn't expect any difference from the PH faithful there. Of course, hey, tournament tomorrow, we wish you the best against the Hicksville Aces and make a nice tournament run. So, Justin, appreciate your time here this afternoon and wishing you the best, my friend.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, let's thank our sponsors again. D&G Welding of Archbold. Call 445-5751 and ask about their mobile service. That's D&G Welding of Archbold. Innovatech Solutions of Archbold with a K. You can get to them at innovatechsolutions.net online or call 445-8088. S&W Mills of Archbold, also one of our sponsors continuously throughout this season, 419-445-5206. And BSN Sports, top-notch fan gear and personalized uniforms from BSN Sports. You can contact Jim Garris, Rob Welch, or Rob Held for BSN Sports. Thank you for your sponsorship. Time now for the Senior Spotlights.
I want to welcome Senior Lily Kruse from Napoleon to our Senior Spotlight. Lily, appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, that's great. Thank you for being here. How about this? Let's get started. When did you start playing sports, and who has been a big influence for you in your career?
I started sports in kindergarten, actually, with upwards, but everything started getting serious once we hit junior high. But the influence in my life has been my mom. She's always been there, and she's always been pushing me to be the best and taking me to camps, me better, and all that.
Well, that's great. How about this? As you're growing up in Napoleon, and the Lady Cats over the years have had some great success. Has there been another player as you were growing up that you admired?
Taylor Strock and Kaylee Ressler, actually, both of them. I knew Kaylee, we were family friends, and so it was always fun to watch her. And Taylor Strock, she was always just incredible to watch. Such a good athlete, had such good character. Both of them did. And it was just awesome watching them and wanting to be like them someday.
Well, that's great. Those are two good models there. How about that? Just in those two girls, what of their game did you take with you, or wanted to try to take how they played, with you to the court?
Well, I think like we always would talk about them, and even not just their game, but like during practices, always talking how hard they would work and the extra time they would put in, and how that like helped them on the court with almost all their free throws going in. So staying after practice, just work on free throws. And it was just something that I always wanted to do, is just to keep working to get better.
Lily, a follow up on that. As Coach Kruse said, the program at Napoleon has been tremendous. Obviously, a couple runs to state, and you grew up watching that. Now you're a part of the program. What's the importance of you being part of the program, and what are you trying to pass on to the younger kids so that program can continue after you're gone?
Yeah, it's just the community here is also an amazing part of the program, and to just pass on to the younger girls that even if we aren't always the best team or in a game, you always have to try your hardest. We have to be the toughest team out there, and I just hope that younger girls look at our team here and see that in us.
Well, that's great. You mentioned we talked about Napoleon. One of the neatest things about Napoleon is the place where you play, the Grand Canyon. And I'll tell you right now, Lily, I mean, coaches all over the area, players from all over there, they want to play the Grand Canyon. They love playing there. But you get to play there daily, all right? Don't get spoiled by that. But what other gym do you go to that you like to go play at? Because it's not the Grand Canyon. Where do you like to go play at?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I like to go play at PH just because of the atmosphere there. I feel like
There you go.
anytime you play there with Napoleon PH, it's always a super competitive, fun atmosphere to be playing in, and that game always just brings so much hype for me.
Not a lot of love loss either between those two schools either. They like to beat each other up, don't they?
Yes, yes.
So how about this? If we ask Coach Cicero to describe you as a player, what do you think he would say?
I feel like he always talks how I'm positive and I support my teammates, and I feel like I'm a pretty gritty player, like always on defense. That's my, like, what I'm best at is my defense. And this year my shot has gotten better, so I feel like he would say something about my shot too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I did ask him that question. He said he gave you a word. He gave me a word. He said, you are selfless. And that is an awesome trait to have, where you would do anything for the team. In fact, he brought the situation up with his daughter, who's only a freshman, or she was a freshman. She's a sophomore this year, but she came in and you helped her, at the position, welcomed her to the program. And I guess this year she got hurt and you kind of took over, and you were real positive with the team, and when you guys struggled early. So what do you think about Coach saying something like that?
Oh, that is just so awesome to hear. Yeah, I loved when they got here. It was awesome to invite Chloe into our program, and just, yeah, it was an awesome thing for our program.
Lily, I had the pleasure of calling your game against Brian. I do the TV radio for Brian. And specifically, I remember talking about you being the glue kid, the one where maybe the stat sheet doesn't get stuff, but you just kind of held the team together. But also remember from that game is you're number 3, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just kind of curious, was there anything that led you into choosing number 3 and any significance to that?
Not necessarily. It's just been a number. Well, I went my sophomore year as number 12, and then because one of the seniors had number 3, but it was just always something that I wanted to be number 3. No significance really to it.
Well, my math isn't very good, but 1 and a 2 equals 3, so you're a 3 there too.
Yes.
Well, how about this? You're 14-8 this year. You're Lady Cats. You're 9-1. You are the GLL Cardinal Division champions, which is awesome. What's your role on the team as you see it? And why don't you tell us about some of your other teammates too?
Yeah, my role, I feel like, like you said, is to keep everyone glued. And then it's our shooters this year are mainly Chloe Cicero, Ava Good, and Hannah Miller. And then in the post, we have Lila Huddle and Molly Rosebrook. And I feel this year, like all of us just working together has been awesome. And we've really all glued and starred in our roles, which is what we say before every game is to star in your role, because that's just what keeps us going. That's what wins our games, is if everyone just focuses on their role.
Though, if we can step away from basketball for just a tad, I know you're very active in your school. I noticed you were an ambassador, you were involved in NHS. Kind of talk to us about the importance of being active in other things outside of athletics.
Yeah, I feel like being involved in stuff like that, it helps keep your school going. It helps make school fun for the younger classmen. And I feel like being a part of those things will help me with going into the future and with becoming a part of things in the community and stuff like that.
Well, that's great, Lily. And speaking of the future, you'll graduate from Napoleon High School sometime next spring. So, what's the future look like for Lily Kruse?
Yes, I'm going to attend Miami University, and I'm going to be majoring in early childhood education.
Well, that's great. We wish you the best. And tournament starts up here tomorrow night. You're going to Bryan. So we want to wish you and your Lady Cats all the success as you start your final tournament season for your career. So wish you the best, Lily. And thank you again for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
I want to welcome Daniel Donovan from Stryker High School to our senior spotlight. Daniel, appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. How about this? When did you get interested in playing sports? At what period of your life, and who was your biggest influence?
I've had a ball in my hand since I was pretty much the second I was born. My dad has coached and played high school and college basketball, so he influenced it to me and my brothers pretty much right away, and we've been going at it since.
Well, that's great. You mentioned your brothers. I know you've had the opportunity to play with your brothers. Tell us about that, the good and the bad and the positives and everything.
Yeah, so last year, my older brother was a senior, and then my younger brother was a sophomore. So we all started, and I think in the time you don't really realize it, but looking back, it was pretty special. Not very many people get that chance, so we're definitely very competitive. So it wasn't always smooth sailing, but come game time, it was definitely a lot of fun.
Well, I remember watching you guys last year, and as a radio announcer, it was pretty easy. Donovan to Donovan to Donovan. That was pretty simple.
Yeah,
and Donovan
exactly.
scored. All right, go ahead, Tim.
Yep.
What do you got?
Daniel, you mentioned playing for your dad, and your dad's currently, I believe, an assistant coach on the team. Talk a little bit about that dynamic and maybe some of the joys of playing for your dad and maybe some of the challenges when your dad's the coach.
Yeah, I definitely love it just because he always instilled like the play style that I've grown to, kind of use on the court. So everything I learned was from him. So he's always in my ear giving me advice that I know I can trust, and then not have to kind of think about whether or not that's good for me or not, because I trust him so much. So I just apply it. It's a very simple process. So.
Well, Daniel, I know this has been somewhat of a challenging year for you personally. You had an injury where you missed 13 games. Why don't you tell us about your injury, if you would? Just describe it quickly.
Yeah, so I dislocated my kneecap the week of our first game. So had knee surgery, just like a quick cleanup, and then missed about, I think, a little over 2 months. So I think I'm maybe 7 or 8 games in from that. So.
Well, that is an injury. I'll tell you what, I can relate to that because I had the same exact injury happen 3 times in my career. Yes, sir. And it got to the point where when I was a freshman in college, it was the third and final time. I'm on the floor in basketball game, and I just popped that sucker right back in. You know, it.
I couldn't do it. I had to have somebody else do it, but
Well, it's
yeah,
kind
not
of
fun.
ugly, and but
Yeah,
I
very.
understand that. But I'm glad you got back on the floor after your surgery. How about when you were not playing? You had to watch. What was your role in the team at that point?
Yeah, so it was definitely tough because I wanted to be out there, but once I kind of realized that it wasn't at the time, it's not working out. You kind of gotta be that senior leader to the underclassmen, and then try to just make an impact any way you can. Because obviously not on the court you can, but just lifting people up, giving advice, helping the coaches out if I see something, just being encouraging.
Daniel, when you were injured, did you gain a further appreciation for those kids who may be role players or don't play all the time because now you're in that situation, you're not playing? Did you view things a little differently?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I I never really, I guess, experienced that until this year. So it's you kind of, yeah, you definitely gain appreciation with how positive they are, even without being able to play. I always like, you should be positive, but when you're sitting on the bench and watching everybody else have fun, it's tough. But so I definitely gained a lot of respect for all those guys.
You betcha. How about this, Daniel? As a senior now, as you look back, if you could give some advice to young Stryker athletes or any athlete for that matter, young kids, what would you get? What would you tell them?
Uh, I mean, I know it's cliche, but uh, just it goes by fast. Don't take anything for granted. Um, Definitely look up to the older guys. See the work they're putting in, because if you want to get to that level, it takes a lot of work. And then one thing that it took me a little while to recognize is how important it is to get in the weight room, because
Got it.
you can be in the gym all the time, but if you want to take your game to the next level, getting in the weight room is a big deal.
That's great advice. I wish my grandson's listening to you right now. How about this? If I were to ask Coach Willis to describe you with a word or two, what would he say? What do you think?
I would say, I think this year for sure, definitely a vocal leader. We don't have a lot of varsity experience, so trying to add all the experience I've had vocally, because that's been the biggest challenge for me. I'm used to other people kind of playing that role vocally, but and then I think just a hard worker. I love the tough practices. So I feel like he would say I'm a hard worker.
Well, he kind of alluded to that. In fact, he said one word, dedicated, and that pretty much sums it up pretty well for me. How about this? You're going to finish your regular season this Friday at North Central. Then tournament starts next Friday at Edgerton. Now, you missed the first game around with the Bulldogs, and now you get a chance to get at them again. And what do you think about playing in your your last tournament game, could be your last tournament game, or your last tournament you'll get a play in. So what's your thought about that?
Oh, I've been looking forward to this part of the season all year.
You betcha.
Edgerton's definitely a tough team. They got a lot of seniors. They shoot it really good. So I'm looking forward to the challenge, but I think we got a lot of guys over here on our team that are ready to be done. So I think we're going to play hard, but definitely looking forward to it.
Well, you as you should be, because that's a great experience and the best time of year, as you said. How about this? Next spring, you're going to graduate from Stryker High School. What's your future plans, Daniel?
Still trying to figure that out. I'm planning on playing college basketball somewhere. Haven't figured that out, and then maybe majoring in accounting, some in the business range. So.
Very good. And you know what? We, again, just want to tell you a major thanks for joining us here today, Daniel, and have enjoyed watching you play, and we want you to continue on, and we wish you the best. So thanks again, Daniel.
Yep. Thank you for everything you guys do for all the athletes in Northwest Ohio.
All right, our sponsors for Northwest Ohio Hoop Chat, D&G Welding of Archbold, 445-5751 for all your mobile welding needs. Innovatech Solutions of Archbold, 445-8088 for Innovatech and Technology Partner. S&W Mills of Archbold for all your animal bedding needs at 445-5206. And BSN Sports. BSN is top-notch fan gear, personalized uniforms. They are the heart of the game. Thank you for your sponsorship. Time to turn to the VIP segment of Hoop Chat.
Want to welcome former coach Kirk Lehman to our VIP segment. Of course, Kirk was the longtime coach at Defiance High School, and 31 years total in the coaching business. And I think people probably remember back in the year 2015, the state Division II state championship that the Bulldogs won. And we'll talk about that here in a while. But Kirk, appreciate you joining the show with us.
Well, thanks, Doug. It's great to be here and great to talk to you and Tim, and looking forward to it.
Well, let's get started. You graduate of Defiance High School, obviously, and you eventually get out of Defiance, you go to Ohio University, and you have a great career. All right. When you were at Ohio University, one thing amazed me was I looked at the stats and stuff. You scored pretty well. You go all league twice, I think, in the MAC. You're number 8 on the assists in the career of OU Bobcat players. That astounded me that you had that many assists.
Well, if you could, Rabbit, could you please, the next Christmas, send that to the family members in my family, because I get criticized for shooting all the time when I was in high school and college, and little do they know that I am all-time list of assists at Ohio U. So if you could get that publicized around my family, I'd appreciate that.
Well, I was shocked, just like them, to be honest with you. But that's pretty awesome.
I think what really helped is, you just have so many good players when you're in college.
Yep.
Anytime you throw a pass, it's probably going to go in the basket. And I was lucky as a freshman to play with two of the best that Ohio University's ever had, and Tim Joyce and Steve Skaggs.
Mm-hmm.
So that was boosted a little bit by that. But I was also coached by a great coach in Danny Nee my last 2 years, and team basketball was number one on his emphasis. And we shared the ball pretty well my last 2 years at Ohio U.
Well, you just mentioned Coach Nee, and we've had a relationship with him as well. But you also played for a pretty successful high school coach. Why don't you just give us a little bit on both of those guys and their influence on you and your coaching career?
Well, both of them had a great influence, Rabbit. And starting with Roger Renz, he was my high school coach, coached at Continental, and then Defiance, and then went on to Findlay. He's the one that really put me on the course to want to be a basketball coach. Came to Defiance in the 70s and really turned things around. And, luckily we hit a stretch with some pretty good talent. Coach was just one of those guys that poured his heart and soul into coaching and really made me want to have a burning desire to coach. He was a big believer in offense. And luckily we had Obi Mauser to do the defense, but Coach Renz really was very good technician at offensive basketball and had a ton of success. And in fact, I'm going to the Hancock County Sports Hall of Fame. He's getting inducted this April, I believe it is. So going to get a chance to honor him, and wish he was still around. Then I went on to college and played at Ohio University, as you said, and played for Dale Bandy for 2 years. And then probably something that turned my college career around in my junior year as Danny Nee came, and he brought with him Billy Hahn as an assistant, and Franny Fischella, and the basketball knowledge was just unbelievable. But the biggest thing I think Coach Nee taught me was a work ethic and how to go about preparing for games, preparing for practices. And I took an awful lot of that information and the things that he did at Ohio University with us. I took that into my coaching career, Rabbit.
Coach Lehman, I don't want to make you feel old, but growing up, my dad would always take me to Toledo to watch the Rockets, and of course, brother Jay went there. And then he talked a lot about you in high school. We went and watched you play in high school, and then followed you to OU. So certainly know about your career. I'm very curious. Who is the best player that you played with in college, and who is the best player you played against in college?
Oh boy, Timmy, you are making me go back a little bit. Probably the best player that I played with, Steve Skaggs, was awful good. He ended up being the leading or career scorer at Ohio University when he was all said and done. Now I think some people have bypassed him since then, but probably the best overall player was John Devereaux. Big 6'8" kid from New York City. Ended up being the player of the year, I believe, in '83 or '84 maybe. Was just an all-around very, very good player, great offensive player, and a good shot blocker and an unbelievable rebounder. But when he got to Ohio University, John had only played basketball for about 2 years, started as a junior in high school. So he had some development to do, but I've never seen a player get any better than he got. And then in college, I was pretty lucky. I played against, some very talented players. Terry Cummings from DePaul was probably one of the better ones. Doc Rivers at Marquette. So we were able to play against some really good players. That Ohio State bunch had Herbie Williams and Carter Scott and those guys, and Todd Penn, and really good players there. So I'm probably missing some guys. And Adrian Branch at Maryland, we played against them, and Derek Harper at Illinois. So just to name a few, some of the guys that made the pros, but awful lucky to have a chance to play basketball. It's given me an awful lot, Tim, and I'm very, very grateful to it.
Yeah, Coach, listening to you talk and remembering you play, and I forgot you played against some of those really good players. What was the biggest adjustment you had to make coming from Defiance High School and then playing against that level? Like, what's the one thing you remember, like, holy cow, this was way different than I thought?
Well, just the speed of the game and obviously the size. You're going up against that particular size every single night, and the quickness and being able to get my shot off. And even though I scored 17 a game my sophomore year, I think as a junior and senior, I understood the speed of the game so much better because of Billy Hahn, Fran Frischella, and Danny Nee. They just had a great understanding of film study and what to take advantage of against your opponents, and where we could get shots, how to defend a little bit, because I wasn't the quickest guy, and Rabbit can verify that. I know that much, but just being able to read some things was just a big help, Tim.
That's good stuff, Lamo. How about this? I know family is very important to you. Of course, your own parents and so forth are huge in your upbringing and everything. But you also played with your brother Jay in high school, and you played against him in college. How was both experiences?
Well, interesting all the way around, Rabbit. It was obviously a great experience, and at times very challenging. Jay was very demanding as a player. He was our point guard in high school, and he was a leader. I mean, he was a coach on the floor. There wasn't any doubt about it. Sometimes that was a little challenging for a little brother, and we had some discussions back and forth. Unfortunately, he usually won out on most of those, but it was a great experience because he was such a great competitor. And a great passer, and he knew how to get you shots and things like that. So that was a great experience. Now, playing against him wasn't such a great experience. I was 0-6 against him. So
They were pretty
we
good.
didn't beat
no
him
doubt.
until he became a graduate assistant, and Coach Tim Reiser came to Toledo. That's when we finally beat Toledo, for crying out loud. So
Wow.
I give Reiser grief about his playing and Jay grief about his coaching ability.
There you go.
Yeah,
you got it covered.
That's the only time we were able to beat him. So they had quite a team, though.
They did.
And
they were
Jay
real
was a
good.
great leader of that team. But they had Tim Selgo and Dick Miller and
Harvey
Jim Swaney.
Knuckles.
And one of the best athletes in the Mid-American Conference, in my opinion, has ever seen in Harvey Knuckles. I mean, he could do it all.
Well, they were good, no doubt. Now, speaking of family, you also had the opportunity to coach your son, Bryn, and then he was on your staff as well. So how was those two situations, coaching him and then coaching with him?
It was really good. Rabbit, very intelligent young man, and he really brought some things leadership wise and kind of got us going when we got back to Defiance in 2008. Their team was the first winning season that we had. They were 15-7, 8-1 in the WBL, and kind of turned the corner for us a little bit and led to the success that we had in the 2010s. And he was a great leader, a good point guard. Was challenged at the defensive end sometimes, and we had discussions about that. But just it was a joy to coach him. And then when he got on staff, he was at Bryan for a while and coached there a couple years, and then came back to Defiance, and we got him on staff right away, and just really understands and appreciates the concepts offensively, especially, and really gave us a boost with some of the plays that we ran.
Well, that's awesome because he's doing a great job as well. So let's go to your state championship team of 2015. As a local guy here, just rooting my butt off for you guys. That was an awesome experience. And as you look back, Lemo, on your 2015 team, was there any one thing, any one game that sticks out in your mind on the tournament trail, even before the state championship game, that sticks out? It was huge.
Well, Rabbit, a lot of people have asked me that over the years. And I think, when people ask questions like that, like, did one certain play turn the corner for you in a game? Or, you have a tough time of thinking about that. But that season, it's amazing. There was a situation in the middle of January where we lost Katwan Singleton for about 5 games with a knee injury. And the one game that we played during that stretch was at Ottawa Glandorf. And both of you guys know, being in coaching a long time, and I've known it a long time, we didn't have a whole lot of success at Ottawa Glandorf anytime. But we went there and played without Katwan, although he was on the bench in a big part of that game. He didn't play. We beat a very good Ottawa Glandorf team at Ottawa Glandorf, and I got to thinking, boy, there's a chance. This team's got a chance to be pretty doggone special. And we went on and won the rest of the games that year, except for the last one against Lima Senior, and then made the great run in the tournament, which was an awful lot of fun.
Well, it certainly was. And, you bring that big gold trophy back to your high school where you played and graduated from. That had to be just an awesome feeling.
Well, really was, Rabbit. I mean, I thought, and obviously the players on that team were high on the list, obviously, of me thinking about and things like that. But I also thought about a lot of the guys that I played with and a lot of the guys that played at Defiance and my parents and everybody that had kind of helped me along the way. Coach Krenz, I thought of him a ton, and got a chance to talk to his son Rick after the game. So all of that was just an unbelievable feeling, to achieve such a high goal that you set your standards for, and you understand how lucky you got to be to get to that point.
I certainly understand that for sure. And Lemo, I'll tell you what, we could talk and go on, but we got to wrap this up. And Lamo, we certainly appreciate your time here today, and we certainly wish you all the best, and you keep on enjoying your retirement, okay?
I sure will, Rabbit, and thank you guys. It's always fun talking basketball with guys that have been around Northwest Ohio and done so much for the game. Thank you, guys.
And hey, real quick, and also we have to remember that the baseball season's starting up, and our tribes are going to be hopefully back at it.
I say we make another run. What do you say?
I double you. Yep.
Time now for our final buzzer segment. Gentlemen, what do you want to talk about here with the tournaments?
Let's take a look at the leagues in the area, Ryan. First of all, congratulations to the Patrick Henry Patriots and the boys NWAL for winning the NWAL championship. A tremendous year for Brian Heber and his PH Patriots, so congratulations to them. And the BBC, very interesting. We have Montpelier, Pettysville, and Edon, all with one loss and tied. None of them play each other, so they all could end up with one loss and a three-way tie for the championship. The league that's really interesting is the GMC, where there's a huge showdown between 6-0 in Tinora and 5-0 in Paulding, 5-1 in Paulding. Paulding started out 3-8 this year, had a couple of injuries, a couple of things that didn't go their way. They've won 9 straight, maybe the hottest team outside of Patrick Henry in our league, and they're going to play for a GMC championship this Friday, and I'm interested to get Coach Kruse's thoughts on that game.
Well, all I know is we saw Tinora. I have not seen Paulding yet, but I would go with a team from Paulding that seems to be pretty athletic. They have some good length from everything I hear, and they're going to guard you. The Rams, what Coach Limenstahl has done this year, they've done a great job. It's a game at Tinora. I think it's up for grabs. Tinora right now has a league championship, one way or the other, but Paulding wants a piece of it. And as my twin brother would say, there's two things you don't share. You don't share your ice cream, you don't share the league championship. So we'll see how this happens because both teams will have a good opportunity. You know what? Do we want to mention the girls too? We also want to recognize the ladies and the championships, the NWAL. We talked to Justin Sonnenberg earlier in our show, and they had a great season. They're still going on, but they're undefeated in league champion, first time since 2006. Congratulations, Lady Patriots. And the BBC, we had Mike Bum on here last week, and we had his daughter the previous week, Kelsey, and they're the league champs in the BBC. Congratulations to the locals. And then in the Green Meadows Conference, again, we had Bethany DeJarnay on, and they are league champs in the GMC. So I want to congratulate all those three teams for their great seasons as well.
How are the tournament brackets looking, Krause?
Well, the ladies' tournament has actually already started in some early games, but the sectional finals are either going to be going on tomorrow night, Thursday night, or they're going to be going on Saturday afternoon. And we got a couple games we're going to highlight in Division 7. I think an interesting game could be at Fayette, and it's the Fayette Eagles versus the North Central Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win. All right. So that's always, that'll be an interesting affair there in Division 7.
Witty.
In Division 6, we mentioned Montpelier at 16-5, 16-6, and they go against Toledo, Ottawa Hills from Toledo area. They're 13-9. So that's pretty good. I mean, they're the number 2 seed, and Ottawa Hills is the 5 seed. It's going to be at Montpelier on Saturday afternoon, a 1:00 start, and that'll be an interesting ball game. So looking forward to see how that all plays out. Tomorrow night, right here at Archbold, Tony, you and I are going to be broadcasting the Archbold Paulding game, and you got the 3 seed Archbold versus the 4 seed Paulding Panthers, and it's 16-6 and 17-5 records. That'll be a good ball game, and I'm looking forward to seeing these two teams tomorrow night because they're going to go at it. And then Tim, you mentioned you're going to be doing a ball game on tomorrow night also, the Napoleon Lady Cats. We talked to Lily Kruse here earlier, and they're going to be headed to Bryan for another game against Golden Bears tomorrow, and those two teams will go at it.
Those two teams will battle hard. Napoleon really took it to Bryan early on in the year, played extremely well. Bryan has gotten a lot better. So I think that's going to be a great game. And I'm also agree with Coach Krause. I think the Archbold Paulding girls game is tremendous. I think that may be the best game in the area. And like he said, those are two teams who are going to really get after it. It should be fun to watch.
Evenly matched.
Very
Incredibly
evenly
evenly
matched.
matched. All right, once again, we invite you to drop us a line, ask us questions about live coaching basketball, even funny situations. You can find us on Hoop Chat on Twitter. If you look for NWOH Hoop Chat, you can get us on X. Email your questions to NWOH Hoop Chat. You can also do that, NWOH Hoop Chat @gmail.com. And also invite you to check out the archive. This is on YouTube. If you were to look up 961 WMTR on YouTube, you're going to find an archive of all kinds of 96.1 content. So we invite you to find our Hoop Chat archive there as well. Thanks again to our sponsors, D&G Welding and Novatech Solutions, S&W Mills, and BSN Sports. This has been a production of WMTR Sports. For Doug Krause and Tim Meister, I'm Ryan Throne, and I'll see you courtside.